We're talking about item number
Right,
4.
I needed to get the computer, or the microphone on. Yes, as long as you don't have to have an action, you can proceed with informational items
Are you
without a
telling me
quorum.
number 4 is not an action item? Where it says accept?
Review and accept.
Well, it's simply saying accept the review. You can just say, we can leave the accept part and just review it.
Okay, we've got right there solid legal defense. We don't want any new incoming mayors to go to jail.
So soon.
Exactly. Okay, well, let's open up the meeting and we'll just call for public comment. Seeing none, we'll do our roll call.
Chair Wasserman,
Here.
committee members, Kelman,
Here.
Constantine, Tucker, Hannacol,
Here.
Carmen.
Here.
Wonderful. We're one short of a quorum.
Yes.
All right, but hopefully we get Sylvia on soon. The meeting's called to order. Report from the chairs. We have no chairs here. Any committee members wish to report on anything? Seeing none, we'll move on to the portion of our agenda. Like I said, public comment. I see Walt. I don't see anybody else here, just for the record. So there's nobody else here, I assume, that wants to speak on any agenda items, so we'll cover that in one action. And we'll turn to item number 4 for the fiscal year 2018 budget review, a non-action item.
Are we going to take a report from Walt?
So I thought Walt was going to
Excuse
give
me.
his report.
Good
Yeah.
point. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, I looked at the
Yeah.
top of that, and I thought it
Yeah.
was the title of the page,
Yeah.
and I did not read Report from Public Advisory Committee, Walt Klein. Walter.
And I missed the last meeting because I was out going door-to-door campaign.
There you go.
And so Ed is prepared to give us a little quick run-through on what occurred.
Okay.
So it was a full meeting. We met for 2.5 hours because the PAC is a very engaged committee on a lot of the scientific stuff of the board, a lot of sort of they're concerned about the budgetary stuff just like you all are. And they were also curious about environmental monitoring. So we had some experts come in and present on the kind of monitoring that we're doing in the Habitat Plan area, as well as sort of monitoring 101, like the different types of monitoring from compliance to water quality. We also, we always meet and talk with them about the latest on the burrowing owls, the plight of the burrowing owls. There's a couple members of the PAC that are really concerned that the numbers are declining, just like you all are. And I gave them an overview of the 2018
You don't mean we're
budget.
declining, you mean we're concerned.
Concerned, yes. No, you guys are robust.
The burrowing
You are
owls
not
were declining just like
Yes,
we are.
Yes. I would be foolish to
Some of
think
you
that.
are. He was looking at me when he said
Rich
that.
had shoulder surgery, but he's going to be as good as new.
Yeah, he can pitch in the minor leagues now, right?
Very minor.
Yeah.
Okay.
So gave an overview of where we are with the burrowing owls, and unfortunately their numbers declined even further this year. But there were more chicks than there were last year, so that's some silver lining there. Even though there were fewer adults, there were more chicks. And then I went over the 2018 budget, which is what I will go over with you
In our agenda.
in a moment. So, and that's it on the report.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, now we can move on to item number 4, a non-action item, fiscal year budget review. Edmund.
Yeah, so our books officially closed at the end of August, and since we didn't have the September joint meeting, just wanted to get you up to speed on where we were with revenues and costs as a final for the 2018 fiscal year. So on page 41, you'll notice that at the bottom, the third paragraph from the bottom, the reallocation of salary costs for staff. This came out of a PAC meeting where they were saying, well, your administrative costs are pretty high. Are you guys just all doing administrative work? And we said, no, staff is primarily doing implementation of the plan. So they suggested that we allocate costs based on the task. So we have three major tasks. One is technical permitting, one is conservation strategy implementation, and the other is administrative. So I asked Tara and Jerry to start tracking their hours of where most of their time is going, and I started to track my hours. And at the end of the page and the beginning of page 42, you'll see sort of the breakdown for the three of us. And as a result, on page 43, the spreadsheet in the middle of the page, you'll see what expenditures were, and that fiscal year 18 actual reflects that reallocation of administrative to kind of more accurately depict what staff time is actually doing, not just administrative work, but also work in those other two categories. And you can see what we had originally budgeted for in those categories and what we and how much we expended. So we expended 1.3 million less, roughly, and that was primarily because the San Felipe Creek project construction hadn't started yet. But now it started in this fiscal year, and it was just completed last month. So I'll talk about that in the EO report. So our expenditures were almost 2.4 million. And our revenues, it was our best year yet. You can see at the spreadsheet on page 43, just above this chart, you'll see that the grand total was $10,358,385, and that doesn't include the land acquisition grants that we got from the Section 6 federal program and the WCB matching, which is another $4 million. Yeah.
Does not include.
Does not include, yeah. So those are all revenues from primarily projects paying fees, but there's also some interest revenue and some reimbursements for research grants and for our lobbying efforts in Sacramento. 5 of the statewide HCPs all chip in $5,000 to pay for a lobbyist, EEC, and Environment Energy Consulting, to kind of keep tabs on what's going on, and they helped us with framing our talking points for Prop 68, for instance. So if there's any questions on any aspects of the final budget, I'm glad to answer them.
Questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. The reason for the allocation and showing, is that mostly for transparency?
The PAC was concerned that it looked like we were spending, because we spent less on conservation strategy, a third of our expenses were viewed as going towards administrative, and they said the optics of this doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, it's staff costs, and they said, well, what is the staff doing? And I said, well, the staff is doing all these things, and they suggested, why don't you kind of look at what staff is doing in the reallocation of cost. So in some ways, it creates transparency in a way, because it more accurately depicts the nexus of the fees being collected and the staff working on really what we're supposed to be doing, and instead of what we would traditionally call administrative expenses. But a lot of my time is still administrative, because I'm managing the organization, I'm doing outreach, meeting with the elected, stuff like that.
Now, is this something that you're going to have to constantly continue to track now? And how time consuming is it to do that?
It's not very time consuming. Okay. It's a little extra work for Tara and Jerry, and they do it every month. They just kind of separately track their hours. Yeah. Okay. So it's almost like a billable. No, this is actually where our time is going.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Angie, as far as Sylvia, do you have a cell number for her?
That's what I've been trying to call.
Are you trying to, so you do have a cell number for her? Mm-hmm. Okay, otherwise I was going to have my office try and get you a number, but you have one.
Yes.
It wouldn't hurt if they can get another number. We can try all fronts.
They informed me that she's coming from another committee meeting, and that's probably the holdup. Her assistant just emailed me that she would call me or
Okay, and any other committee member that's not here we couldn't call and put on the phone because they weren't noticed, and we haven't publicly noticed that they're at a hotel or wherever they're at.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on item 4? Nope, nope, we're good. Okay, we'll consider it reviewed.
Thank you.
No, I
A
have
good
minor
legal term, I
question.
think.
I have a minor question. I've forgotten, refresh my memory. How many HCPs are there in the state?
Gee, HCPs, there's probably around 30 of them. HCP, NCCPs, actually HCPs, there might be more than that. Like the city of Santa Cruz is doing one. I found out that on Tuesday. I was surprised. It's focused mainly on salmonids and the riparian corridors. So I think if you're looking at HCPs, which is that federal permit, I know it's over 30, less than 50, but over 30. NCCPs, which we're also implementing, it's in the 20s. Some are in the planning phases. There's a good 15 to 20 that are being implemented.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a
But
lot.
I can get those exact numbers for you.
I was just curious. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to item number 6. Edmund, your executive officer's report.
Yes, thank you. So we held 2 state legislator visit days to the plan area on September 10th and 17th. And I just listed all the legislators and their staff that attended, as well as some of our conservation partners. This came out of a suggestion from the California Habitat Conservation Coalition. We're trying to build legislative champions. And the most responsive to date in terms of sort of possibly being a legislative champion has been Senator Bell and Assemblymember Stone. They've been the most engaged. To a lesser degree, Assemblymember Clara and Senator Monning, who unfortunately couldn't make one of these days here. But you get a sense that we had quite a good turnout from either legislators themselves or their staff. And we sort of traveled around the plan area. It was a 3-hour tour, just like in Gilligan's Island, but we didn't strand any of them. So, and we brought up things that are important for them and thanked them for their support on Prop 68. And then our partners also talked about some issues that were important for them. OSA, as you probably all know, Coyote Valley's their big issue. So we talked we allowed for them to hear. I think most of these legislators have heard about the Coyote Valley issues with OSA and others who are trying to have a different vision for that valley. So it was, I think we'll do this again. And in the future, we're going to do some targeted trips to, like Senator Monning, as you all know, he represents more the southern part of the county, and maybe do a targeted visit with him and some of his staff to the Pacheco Pass area and Gilroy area, and show them some of the properties that we're interested in acquiring and some of the issues we're facing. If you turn the page over, I want to give you an update on the permit integration. So we completed a memo with the Department of Fish and Wildlife they don't want to integrate their lake and streambed alteration process with our NCCP. That's a source of frustration by a lot of us NCCPs in the state. But they did agree to defer to the habitat plan when a project proponent's coming in, and so they don't get double mitigated. So if what they're doing is adequately mitigated through the habitat plan, then the Department of Fish and Wildlife won't add on additional mitigation measures. We found out they were, and we said, oh, hold on here. You know, this is, but to the credit of Region 3, they worked with us on this memo. So we have a process where now if a city project or a county project is coming in, public or private, there shouldn't be extra conditions added. unless the issue is not being handled by the habitat plan. So if there's some hydrology issue, or it's a fish issue, or if it's a species we don't cover, then it would, they could still add conditions and onto the permit. We're also real close to integrating the Section 7 consultation process with a regional general permit. That means, in particular for the transportation agencies and the water district, if a project is impacting a salmonid stream, in this case we're talking steelhead, we're starting to develop a process where there won't be delays associated with that consultation. It'll be a streamlined consultation, and we're working on increasing the in-stream fee for projects that impact steelhead. Then we'll take that delta, that extra money we collect, and agree to do some fish restoration projects for national marine fisheries and for steelhead focused. As I reported before, we're trying to develop an in lieu fee program for the regional general permit. That's the 404 permitting but we're being very cautious that what we get isn't going to create problems for us with the Army Corps. We've gone back and forth on a draft instrument with the consultants that are helping us prepare it. And we're really close to submitting that to the interagency review team that would approve our in lieu fee program. So an in lieu fee program for the 404 would be like what we're doing for the endangered species permitting. People pay fees, then we have time to then do a project. So right now we have to do restoration in advance of 404 impacts. That's a big reason why we did the San Felipe Creek project for then projects wouldn't be delayed seeking their 404 permits through the Corps, because we have advanced mitigation essentially.
May I interrupt you for just a second?
Yes.
I just gotta go ahead to call, and it's gonna sound over the system.
Okay.
Hi, Auntie.
Hello.
Hi, I have council member here.
Okay,
We have,
we have council member on the phone.
I apologize. I
Still-
was in our public safety committee and was waiting for the vote to happen before I could leave.
Sylvia, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, this is Mike Wasserman. I'm chairing today's meeting, and with you, we have a quorum. Without you, we don't. Are you able to stay with us?
Yes, I am. I just left my committee.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. Do you need to return to your committee for a vote, or is that done?
No, the reason I'm late is because I needed to stay there for a vote, and now I'm out. I'm not returning, so I'm here.
Super, thank you, because we need you for 4 votes as well.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
Absolutely, it worked out perfectly. Edmund, we're on, Sylvia, if you have your agenda, we handled 4. We're on item 6. Edmund, as far as wrapping up on number 6?
Yes, I can wrap up. So we're working on integrating the 404 permit process. They have something called a waste discharge requirement application. We're going to be submitting that soon. It's been completed. We have to submit one for each of the regional boards. We're in the jurisdiction of 2 of them. Grant update, got some great news here. We finally secured that D7 money with the water district.
Yay.
So up to $8 million will be their board approved it, an agreement with us for land acquisition. We were awarded a $500,000 grant by the D3 program through the water district. It's too bad Barbara or Linda are not here. We could thank them for this. But that's for Pacheco Creek restoration. We also have been tentatively told we're going to be awarded a $175,000 grant also for Pacheco Creek through the state Prop 68 monies, Wildlife Conservation Board program. And then we have 3 research grants that are pending, and we're cautiously optimistic we'll get those too, and that's for $179,000. So land acquisition, Clara's continuing. I'm hopeful that this will happen soon. Hopefully sometime early next year, we'll get that county park, some of that county park enrolled in our reserve system. Negotiations with UTC are moving along. We're really close in agreement on a donation agreement with them. We're reviewing a reciprocal easement agreement with them where we would access the land they're retaining for, to be able to access parts of our property they're going to donate to us, and they would have some access rights on the property they're going to donate to us, mainly for utility and fence work. So I think that the negotiations should be completed soon. Since they want to go through the state heritage tax program, there's a long lead time in getting to the Wildlife Conservation Board for approval of the donation agreement. So but at least on our end, we're really close to getting an agreement with them.
Wonderful.
There's 7 additional properties which we can talk about in closed session in January if you guys want to. We're probably getting to that stage where I should probably start talking to you about some of these properties. Some are 5 we're on the lead on, and 2, 1 post is the lead on, and 1 OSA is the lead on. And it'll probably be a good time in January, if we have a January meeting, to have a closed session discussion. None of them are happening like now. It's not like we have anything but it'd be good to update you guys on what's going on. Restoration, as I noted, San Felipe construction is complete. 1.82 miles of stream restored. This is within Grant County Park. County Parks has been really great to work with on this project. And you can see perennial and seasonal wetlands restoration and creation, almost 4 acres, and over 1.5 acres of willow riparian restoration. Coyote Ridge Ponds will be going to construction early next year. Pacheco Creek, and we now have some funding in addition to our funding. We're in the planning and design phase. RFP was released earlier this month. And Coyote Creek, this would be working with the Water District and the City of San Jose. We're in sort of the feasibility phase of that with those 2 entities. And that's all on the EO report.
Super, and just for the record, last week, Don Rocha, not council member Don Rocha, but our former interim Parks Director, Don Rocha, has now become our new full-time permanent Parks Director, Don Rocha, taking over for Rob Courtney, who served on this.
Right.
Thank you for that report. Any questions, committee members?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, please.
Does it work? Oh,
There you
it
go.
does. Okay. Question to Edmund about the CDFW's streambed alteration MOU.
Yes.
Should we expect a memo as co-permittees, because this really affects
Yes.
San Jose's projects?
And I'll check with Jerry. I don't know if he sends something out or not, but I'll definitely check and make sure the IC members and the TAC members get it.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? No? All right, we'll consider your report accepted. Thank you very much. Move on to item number 1, which is approval of the minutes. And for the record, we have a quorum now with Sylvia joining us. Item 1, approval of the minutes from the May 17th meeting. Any comments or a motion?
Move approval. Oh, wait.
Motion to approve?
Small comment, Chair.
Sure. May I have a second first? And let's-
Second.
Second? Now comments, please.
All right. The second statement on page 5, paragraph, they also agreed to talk about the lack of wildlife passing through. That is a misrepresentation of, I think, what we discussed.
Okay.
Are we saying that there is lack of wildlife, or are we saying there's lack of enough corridor or passage for the wildlife to pass through?
So this was part of Walt's report. So let's see, if they agreed to talk about, I think the high-speed rail is recognizing that they're going to impact permeability of the landscape, and they've agreed to kind of work on mitigating that. Does that
Correct.
seem
Okay.
accurate to you?
That's what
Okay.
I remember. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Fair correction. Thank you. Any other comments about item number 1?
guess.
So there's a consent calendar, 1 through 3. Are we taking that all together? Are we doing?
You know what, Angie? I like your style.
Surprised you missed that.
I
didn't know
did,
you were
I
taking
missed that, and that's, for me to miss a way
The
to speed,
king of
speed things up.
Closed session items.
You're
or-
consent
or
items, you're right.
consent items? Wow.
All right, Smarties, we got a motion and a second on one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we now have 2 and 3 under consent. Do I have a motion regarding those two?
Motion to approve consent
Second.
calendar.
And a second. Any comments about items 2 and 3? Nobody from the public, no comments. All in favor of approving 2 and 3, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. That passed unanimously. Thanks, Angie. That's 1, 2, 3. We did 4 and 6. We're down to 5. Approval of agreement with ICF Jones and Stokes for Burrowing Owl program. And that's the company we currently use, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct.
Go
So I'm
ahead.
here to answer any questions on the contract and why we're going with them. I figured this is something we shouldn't put on the consent, just in case you guys had any questions about
Correct,
it.
yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any questions or comments
I
about
was just
5?
wanting to ask about the, I think it was it this one, the way it was worded, 676,000 for all 5 years or per year?
All 5 years, sorry. Yep.
Okay, so it's for a total of 676 for 5 years.
Yeah, that's my fault. I wrote this.
No,
That's fine, for the record's understood.
Chair, I think we need to do a roll call because of the phone.
Yeah.
So we need to
For
go
the
back to
previous vote.
the consent calendar items and do a roll call.
Can we just do a roll call for Sylvia, or do you need all 6 to do again, Valerie? Or just make a record that Sylvia joined us at X time?
So you should, you should make a record that Sylvia joined at X time. To clarify the consent calendar, since you couldn't tell all the voices, you could do a roll call, or you could have everyone who's present act, and then specifically ask Sylvia what her vote is.
Certainly. Sylvia, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. I
Did
heard
you
that.
join us you joined us about 3:15,
It was 3:22.
3:20? You joined us at
yeah, I guess so, sure.
22.
3:20, seriously.
That's what she said.
3:22. Okay, so Angie, will you please reflect in the record that Sylvia Arenas from San Jose joined us at 3:22. Valerie, is that enough for roll call wise? And then we'll make note for public record of who was voting on consent items 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, so I think that's appropriate to record the fact that she joined at 3:22, and you now have a quorum, and that's why you were able to go ahead with these items. I
you.
think you can go back for the consent calendar and inquire as to what her position is on both the minutes and items 2 and 3,
We'll do that.
and then you can do a roll call vote on item 5.
Okay, so for the record, we were joined by Sylvia at 3:22, so all action items did have a quorum voting. Sylvia, what was your votes on items 1, 2, and 3?
I'd say yes.
A yes vote.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And Valerie, you wanted item 5 to ask for her vote as well?
No roll call.
Well, you haven't taken a vote yet on item 5, so you might as well do it as a roll call.
Okay, so the roll call. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah. None? None? Okay. We'll take a roll call vote because we have Sylvia away remotely. Please go ahead, Angie.
Did we do
Sure.
a motion?
No. Oh,
I thought we did a
Oh,
motion.
motion to approve.
That's okay.
Okay, so it was a motion
And a
and second.
second. Okay. And this is item number 5. Let's do a roll call vote because we have one member who is participating remotely.
Chair Wasserman,
Aye.
Board members Kalman,
Yes.
Constantine,
Aye.
Tucker,
Yes.
Kanako,
Aye.
Carmen. Aye. Arenas.
Yes.
Wonderful. I believe that concludes our agendized items. We have future implementation board. Yes, Kat?
I do actually have something, only in light of the tragedies that's happening in California with the fires. I was just wondering if you know of or have thought of some sort of disaster recovery plan. I don't know the 2 areas right now in California, if there were any HCPs in those areas, but I'm just wondering there should be some sort of recovery plan put it on the agenda for next year to look at or something.
Sure. We,
It's a good idea.
we have worked with a consultant to develop a fire management plan for our properties and sort of good practices to minimize the potential impacts of a fire occurring either on our property or coming from a neighboring property. But as far as a disaster recovery plan.
For our animals.
Yeah,
Our
yeah,
species.
yeah. Oh, I see what you mean.
I mean
Got
for the
you. Oh, for
species,
the
because,
species, yeah.
Actually, I've
Yeah.
been seeing a lot of posts, you know, now
Yeah.
that the first, almost a week now since, Paradise, who a good friend of mine lost her home, so I'm seeing posts, more now, okay, what happened to the animals and,
Okay.
and those, you know, the
Gotcha.
ecosystem, kind of.
Understood. Yeah, and there is some examples of what happened in Southern California. There was one butterfly that they believe went extinct in the fires in
really?
San Diego in 2004 when they had those big fires. Those two areas do not have HCPs as far as I know, but there are endangered species that inhabit both of those areas. Yeah, yeah. I can look into that and come up with something.
I think that's very interesting. I mean, you were talking about the burrowing owl population going
Yeah.
down, and if there was a certain area where they were most populated, and if that happened to be part of the 20,000 acres that was scorched, you know, what do you do? And I think it's interesting as far as what's possible and for next time.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just to follow on that, we thought about this at BTA once, where what would happen if our restoration mitigation sites were wiped out by some act of God? And we looked into getting insurance, so that if that happened, then we could redo the site if necessary. We actually never followed through with it, but at one point we were investigating that.
It's good.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
I hadn't
look-
thought of insurance. So I do know Chapter 9 of the plan talks about unforeseen circumstances, and fire is not viewed as one, but it really doesn't get into recovery. You know, what do you do? What do we have to do? So I'll look into that, and I'll look into insurance.
Yeah, and I guess flood would be in there too, but natural disasters is what we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah, interesting. Any other comments? Any committee members? On page 3 of the agenda, it's got our upcoming meetings for both the governing board and implementation board. So wish all of you a happy holidays. Is there anyone on this committee who this is their last meeting and is not, for whatever reason, appointed to this committee for 2019? Nope? Good, good. Sylvia, anything you want to join from afar? Anyone want to say?
No, thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right, thank you very much. Anything else? Valerie, Edmund?
No.
Anybody else at all? Angie? Anything else? All right, with that, meeting adjourned. Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays,
Happy
everyone.
holidays. Thank you.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yep.